You've noticed something changing, haven't you? Maybe it started quietly. One evening you realized you'd been sitting with your dog for an hour, your hand resting on their warm fur, not wanting to move. Or your cat curled into your lap and suddenly the idea of disturbing them felt impossible. Perhaps you found yourself talking to your bird, really talking, telling them about your day, your thoughts, things you used to keep inside, and you might have wondered, is this normal? Why do I feel so much more now? Here's what most people don't understand. After 50, something profound shifts in how we connect with our animals. It's not weakness. It's not loneliness filling a void. It's actually one of the most beautiful psychological transformations we experience as we age, and science is only now beginning to understand why it matters so deeply. First, the architecture of your heart is changing. When you were younger, your days were crowded. Work deadlines, children's schedules, obligations stacking like bricks. You loved your pets, of course you did. But love competed with 100 other urgent things. Now time moves differently. You've crossed an invisible threshold where you finally have space, not just in your calendar, but in your emotional capacity. Researchers studying emotional development across the lifespan have found that after 50, our priorities fundamentally reorganize. We become what psychologists call selectively social. We stop wasting energy on shallow connections and invest deeply in relationships that truly nourish us. And your dog, your cat, that bird who tilts their head when you speak, they've always been there waiting. But now you can finally see them. When you choose to spend an extra hour with your dog instead of scrolling through your phone, you're not avoiding life. You're choosing what life actually is. Second, your nervous system recognizes safety. There's a reason your cat's weight in your lap feels different now than it did 20 years ago. A reason you don't want them to move. Your body is having a conversation with their body. And for perhaps the first time in decades, you're calm enough to listen. Studies on human-animal interaction reveal something remarkable. When we're with our pets, our cortisol levels, the stress hormone that has likely been elevated for most of your adult life, begin to drop. Your heart rate slows. Your breathing deepens. At the same time, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, rises in both you and your animal. But here's what makes this profound after 50. You need this now in ways you didn't before. Your body has carried stress for so long. The accumulated weight of responsibilities, losses, changes. When your pet settles against you, they're not just being affectionate. They're offering your nervous system permission to finally release what it's been holding. That heaviness in your chest when you stroke your dog's head? That's not sadness. That's relief. That's your body remembering what peace feels like. Third, animals speak the language you're finally ready to hear. You talk to your parrot now. You tell them things you wouldn't say to anyone else, and maybe you feel a little foolish about it, but you keep doing it because somehow it helps. This isn't strange. It's actually evidence of profound emotional intelligence. As we age, especially after 50, we often experience what researchers call emotional deepening. We become more comfortable with vulnerability, more willing to express feelings we once kept locked away, but expressing them to other people, that still feels risky. We've been hurt. We've learned to be careful. Animals offer something sacred, unconditional witness. Your parrot doesn't judge your fears. Your cat doesn't minimize your joy. Your dog doesn't need you to explain yourself or perform strength you don't feel. When you talk to your bird about your day, you're not talking to the bird. You're talking to yourself, out loud, in the presence of pure acceptance. That's not loneliness. Fourth, you're not losing yourself. You're finding what matters. Some people might look at you and think you've gotten too attached. They might suggest you need to get out more, find human friends, stop obsessing over your pets, but they're wrong. Psychologists studying successful aging consistently find that quality of connection matters far more than quantity. One deep, authentic relationship provides more emotional sustenance than a dozen surface-level friendships. And the truth that makes some people uncomfortable is this. For many of us after 50, our animals provide the most honest, consistent, healing relationships in our lives. Your dog doesn't care if you've put on weight or if your hair is graying. Your cat doesn't need you to be impressive. These creatures see you, the real you, and they choose your presence anyway. They curl up in your lap. They follow you from room to room. They wait by the door. That's not dependency. That's love in its purest form, and recognizing its value isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Fifth, time becomes precious when you understand it's limited. Here's the truth you're probably not saying out loud. You know your time with them is finite. You look at your aging dog, your senior cat, and you feel it. The awareness that these days together are numbered. And yes, that awareness intensifies your feelings. But it also does something else. It makes you present in ways you never were before. You don't take for granted the weight of your cat in your lap because you remember when they were a kitten, and you see how they move more slowly now. You savor that extra hour with your dog because you've lived long enough to know that routines don't last forever, that seasons change, that love is always temporary. This isn't morbid. This is mindfulness born from lived experience. You're finally awake to the gift of the present moment, and your animals are your greatest teachers in this. What this all means. So why do you feel so much more now after 50? Why does your heart crack open so easily for these creatures who ask for so little and give so much? Because you're finally ready. Ready to receive the pure, uncomplicated love they've been offering all along. Ready to admit how much you need softness in a world that taught you to be hard. Ready to stop apologizing for finding your deepest peace in the company of beings who ask nothing of you except your presence. Your cat choosing your lap isn't random. Your dog following you from room to room isn't annoying. Your parrot listening to your stories isn't silly. These are sacred exchanges, silent conversations happening beneath language, in the realm of breath and warmth and being seen. You're not getting too emotional. You're finally emotional enough to recognize what matters. And what matters is this: you are someone's whole world. You are the hand they seek, the voice they recognize, the heartbeat that means home. That's not something to explain away or feel embarrassed about. That's something to honor, for both of you, for as long as you have together. How has the bond with your pet changed after turning 50? Please share your story with us in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay with us on this journey.